Welcome to another edition of the Red Mountain Express, Episode 6. I am Blake Westbrook, and joining me as always is Matthew Joyner. We've got a great show today. We'll have Hunter Williams on the show. He is a candidate for District 2 for the Birmingham City Council, so we'll have him on a little bit later. But first, Matthew, how was your weekend, man?
It was good, man. I got to say, so before the weekend, Thursday night, after we talked to Hunter, I went over to the Yelp prison party. You hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that, and I saw you also took some pictures, too. It looked like there was a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, so Yelp, I had no idea that it was even happening until Thursday morning. Yelp put on a party. I think they invited a lot of their bigger reviewers in the area. They invited a lot of the different food vendors and drink vendors to come out and set up under the 18th Street Bridge with the lights there. It was a good time. We didn't stay the whole time. It was going from like 6 to 9, I think. We stayed till about 8. Had some good food, saw some people, shook some hands, and came home.
Was that sponsored by Rev, or did that have something to do with Rev?
So the donations, it was a $10 suggested donation, and apparently the donations from that were going to Rev. So that was good, too. And I did see David again, shook his hand, said hey to him.
For our listeners who don't know, we interviewed David Fleming, who's the president and CEO of Rev. You can go back and pull up that episode on iTunes or any of your favorite podcast app.
Episode 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right, yeah.
So then after that, Saturday, we did Brewfest, me and my wife and a few friends.
Now, it's a new location. Normally
Right.
they do it at Sloss,
Yeah,
right?
it's moved from Sloss. Apparently, if I heard the story right, the price at Sloss for them to rent was increased, and so they moved it to Avondale Park.
I can understand Sloss going up on the rent. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on at Sloss. They're just kind of trying to make more bang for their buck. So it was moved to Avondale Park, which when I heard that, I was like, I don't know if you could fit everybody in there.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous about it too, because I've been to Brewfest a couple of years, I think last year and maybe the year before, and it's a pretty crowded event, but it's also spread over 2 days, so it's Friday night and Saturday during the day. The move to Avondale, they decreased their time. It was only going to be Saturday from 4 to 8. And so I thought, I've not been to Avondale Park a whole lot, just a couple of times. I've not really explored the whole area, just kind of the entrance in there around the lake. So I was worried that it wasn't going to be big enough for a lot of vendors. I was worried about the parking. I was worried about the crowd situation. But we got there about 4:15, waited in line, got inside. They utilized the park very well. They had the vendors set up there on the inside as you walk in, and then all throughout that baseball field. I didn't feel like there was a shortage of space. I didn't feel like there was a shortage of vendors. I got to try all the beers I wanted to try. And
any special beers that you liked?
So Orange Blossom Brewing is a brewery out of Orlando that I got to try. I'd never heard of them before. I can't tell you what the name of the beer was. It was just labeled number 2. I didn't try anything new from any of the local people. But of course, everything I tried from local people, I enjoyed. No, there wasn't anything that really stood out to me this time. There was a lot of good stuff, but nothing that really gets nothing I need to give a lot of praise to right now.
Well, I think having it at Avondale Park is really good, but I also think this could kind of tie into what we talked about last week about the entertainment districts, or a couple weeks ago about having the entertainment districts.
Yeah.
If you made that Avondale area an entertainment district, you just think of the possibilities. You could spread it out along the whole Avondale area instead of just kind of squeezing everybody into the park.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really, really good for that area.
Especially for an event like this. So we had a Lyft pick us up here at the house and take us into town. We didn't want to drive, of course, because we were going to be drinking, and we didn't want to park our vehicle there.
How safe of you. That is.
Well, thank you. I try. But so I say that to say that our Lyft driver dropped us off there at the entrance to the park. None of that street area in front of the park was shut down, so there was still a lot of traffic, and there were a lot of people trying to walk in and out of there, and that was kind of a cluster. If we had, if Avondale or if Birmingham had decided to shut that street down maybe for the afternoon, that's kind of how I have the entertainment district in my area, in my head in that area is, being able to shut that street down, or that street and the one going down past the brewery, do it for a couple hours on a Saturday or on a Friday night. Man, you could have a lot of cool traffic in and out of there of people just walking from the bars to the brewery to the restaurants. But
that's a growing event. It gets bigger every year.
Yeah, it does.
You could do a lot of good things for the city, especially for that area that they're Are they going to do it there next year? Is that kind of the talk? Or?
I don't know for sure. I haven't heard anybody say yes or no to that, but I would assume so. I don't think they're looking.
You didn't
to go
see there was
back to
any
Sloss.
problems. I know there were a lot of folks said, "Oh my Lord, we're going to be squeezed in there really tight." You thought it was going to be.
We had no issues. If somebody else had an issue, let us know. But we didn't have any problems there. We enjoyed ourselves.
Good. That's great. That's great. I was out of town this weekend. We had a close family friend pass away suddenly, and so I was down in Coffee County saying goodbye to a close friend, and didn't get to really participate in any of the events that were going on in Birmingham.
Understandably.
But back now, I did see, though, that Children's Hospital is building a massive parking deck along with a 6-story building. Is the parking deck going to be under it, kind of like what you see with all the Publix, or not Publix, but with the Publix like Homewood, where you have the parking deck and then the building on top? Or
the way I read a few comments on Reddit this week, it kind of made me think that was the situation. But looking at the story in Biz Journal, so it was a Biz Journal story released on Thursday night or Thursday afternoon. It looks like they're going to build a 12-story parking deck on between 16th and 17th on 4th Avenue South. There's a flat parking area there now, a surface area parking spot, and that's where the parking deck's going to go. 12 stories and I think 1,500 parking spaces.
So the space right now is already a parking.
It's a surface area parking spot. So it's going to increase the value or the parking value of that area massively. So the article goes on to say that they're going to complete that, or slated to complete it in the spring of 2019, and that the 6-story office building will begin construction after that on the 4th Avenue side of the parking deck. So the way it's written makes me think it's going to be a separate building from the parking deck, but I saw a lot of comments talking about it being built on top of the parking deck, like the Publix, or I guess it'd be the reverse of the Publix downtown. So not 100% certain on that, but it's going to be a huge area for parking. It's going to be, kind of add to our skyline there. 12 stories tall is pretty big. And then the 6-story office building, I think, is slated to hold somewhere around 200 support staff for children's.
So I guess just more children's staff being moved.
Yeah, it's all support staff. And from what I hear from people that work there, from looking at, comments and stuff online, that's pretty needed. So that's cool.
Parking always becomes an issue in towns, especially, one the size of Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see that you have an entity like Children's Hospital that's actually going to, contributes to the parking of their employees. I know you have a lot of folks who say, just park wherever you can find a place downtown. That's just sometimes I think that's easier said than done.
No, and especially you've got the university right there. You've got Children's. You've got the University Hospital. I mean, you've got a whole lot of stuff going on right there with a lot of people trying to park. I know a lot of the UAB employees have to park in satellite areas and get bussed into their office because their parking decks and their parking spaces are so full. So this is a good move. Like I said, it's going to start in August and move through the spring of 2019 for completion on the parking deck, and then they'll start the 6-story office building.
It's kind of a ways out.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news for the city of Birmingham. It's good to see that the prosperity is continuing. I think that the only thing that I would say is that you see a lot of these empty lots in downtown Birmingham that you kind of wish that could be repurposed for something like that. But I mean, it's a good step forward.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to take a little break, and when we be back, we'll come back with Hunter Williams, candidate for District 2. It's election season. But first, let's hear from our partners over at Beecham Woodworks and see what they have going on over there. We'll see you in a minute. Beecham Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and Kanan Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beecham Woodworks creates affordable quality pieces that will be a one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit redmountainexpress.com/woodworks or check them out on their Facebook and Instagram accounts. Beecham Woodworks, turning your house into a home. And welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. As a friendly reminder, elections for the Birmingham City Council will be held on August 22nd. Voters will go to the polls to elect not only the City Council, but their mayor and school board. Today, we have Hunter Williams on the show. Hunter is a candidate for the City Council in Birmingham for District 2. He is also the founder of NeuroSafe and currently serves as Crestline Park neighborhood president. Hunter, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, Matthew and Blake.
Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and why you decided to throw your name into the hat, or not your hat into the ring, to become the member of the Birmingham City Council.
It's something that I've thought about over the past couple years. I think it, interestingly enough, started about 2 years ago at Sloss Fest when the incumbent had blocked Uber for almost for for a couple years, and I had a bunch of friends in from out of town, and we ended up having to walk home from Sauce Fest all the way from downtown area all the way to Crestline Park, and that was about a 7-mile walk. And amidst all my friends complaining and moaning about the fact that we were having to walk and there wasn't any transportation, I thought to myself, how unprogressive we were as a city for stopping Uber, for not having enough transportation for an event like that has such an economic impact. And then it kind of progressed after that. And I think that right now our city is at a crossroads where we can really move forward. We have a lot of investment going into downtown and a bunch of different neighborhoods. But I think that with the current leadership, especially in District 2, we have gotten as far as we can get. And I think it's time that we have some new leadership that's more progressive and can push us a little bit forward.
You're a Birmingham native?
Yes, I grew up in Birmingham. I've lived in Crestline for about, I think it's been about 10 years ago. I bought my house in Crestline. I've been active in our neighborhood, and I am currently the neighborhood president.
So what do you feel that you can offer District 2 that the current city councilor Kim Rafferty isn't offering right now? She's been there for 8 years, has very well name recognition. What is it that you can bring to the table that she can't?
I think that that's a very interesting point that you make about her being there 8 years. She has been there 2 terms now, and I think that there's several different aspects of life living in District 2 that you notice that are not being taken care of by the city. The first of which is crime. We have a real lack of law enforcement coverage in District 2, and we have some of the highest crime rates in terms of auto thefts and burglaries in the entire city, and that's really unacceptable. The second thing that you readily notice throughout District 2 is the city has not maintained its green spaces, its parks, and the buildings that it already owns, such as Banks High School. And we have to have a counselor that will advocate for us, that will take care of issues of blight like Banks High School and other dilapidated properties throughout District 2. It's funny, when I was looking back at the different campaigns over the past few elections, I noticed that Banks High School was actually a campaign issue for the last 2 elections, and nothing else has been done since then. There has been no movement and no progress on that. So I think that we can really progress forward, and I think that we're a little stagnant right now in District 2. If you drive down any of our streets, they're full of potholes. They haven't been resurfaced in about 8 years either. So we really need someone that's going to advocate for us. I think we deserve better, and I think we can do better.
And how do you, I guess, looking at those issues you mentioned, like crime and green space, and looking at economic growth in Birmingham and District 2 especially, how do you plan to foster those things or bring those things improvement?
Well, first of all, I think that one way that we need to address crime in this city is through, obviously, education and economic development. I think that people being able to have jobs is a real big part of crime reduction, because it's less people on the streets, and obviously the more percentage of the population that's gainfully employed, typically the less amount of crime you have. But in speaking about specifically just the police department, I think that we need to redraw our beats where we have a beat officer for every single neighborhood instead of beats that are drawn across several different neighborhoods and officers that are always rotating in and out. I think that if we have the officer in each neighborhood, specifically that officer, he or she understands what's going on in that neighborhood, who the players are on the criminal level, and also who the residents are and who their allies are.
A lot of things have been made about, or a lot have been said about the Birmingham City Council's relationship with the mayor. If elected, how do you plan to work with whoever's occupying that position in City Hall?
To me, it does not matter who the mayor is after August the 22nd. I think that due to the Mayor-Council Act, the most important thing a councilor can do is work effectively with the mayor. The mayor in Birmingham controls all of the departments. He directs them specifically, and council members can actually not direct departments specifically. Only the mayor can. The mayor comes up with the budget. I know the council approves it, but it's really up to the mayor to get down to the meat and bones of the budget and make sure that money is being allocated where it needs to be allocated. So, as we look at how this council has interacted with the mayor, it's always interesting to see when you have people that are not interacting well with the mayor, because really the mayor holds a lot of the power. And I think it's really important. I've really liked the way that a few councilors have worked with the mayor. And I think it's so important that you do work with the mayor and keep an open line of communication. I don't mean rubber stamping every project of the mayor or every idea that the mayor has. However, I do think that you will not be an effective councilor no matter what if you cannot have a good working relationship with the mayor.
Let's kind of follow up real quick when you talk about on a previous question, economic growth, bring more jobs, will kind of decrease crime. I know that the mayor has made it part of his platform to recruit more jobs into Birmingham. What kind of jobs do you see that you can recruit to the part of Birmingham that you're going to represent? Is it more retail? Is it manufacturing? Or is it maybe a sprinkling of both?
Well, let me tell you what District 2 encompasses. District 2 encompasses all of Highway 280 that is the city of Birmingham, which of course includes a ton of retail like the Summit. It includes Crestwood South, Crestline, Eastwood, Southeast Lake, Roebuck Springs, and a little bit of Roebuck and a little bit of Huffman. And so our main source of employment in our district is going to be retail. So I think the way that you approach attracting business for District 2 is going to be different than how you would attract it for the city as a whole. I think that for the city as a whole, we need to involve the Birmingham City Schools. We need the Birmingham City Council and the Birmingham Board of Education, along with the superintendent and mayor, to sit down together and invite industry such as Alabama Power and a lot of our automotive suppliers to come into our schools to give some job training for our students. So if they are not going to continuing education, then they can graduate a Birmingham City School with a skill that could get them employment in a major industry. So I think, to answer your question, it's going to be different for District 2 and the city as a whole. I think that we have to involve the Birmingham City Schools to get some job training, so our kids can graduate with a skill that they'll be able to turn into employment. And I do think that we have to do a good job in District 2 specifically of making sure that our shops are leased out. You go along Highway 11 and mostly what you see is for rent signs or for sale signs. A lot of those storefronts are not filled out. We failed by having the BJCT transit bus not extend all the way to the Walmart on Highway 11. We've had a lot of failures that we can fix in order to help bring retail back to District 2.
And if you're elected as councilman for District 2, how do you see your role, or I guess in general, how do you see District 2's role in conjunction with the other districts in the city of Birmingham? How do you work with the other councilors to help everybody experience the growth that we need?
Yeah, I think that one thing that I truly believe in is that we're all stronger when we're united, when we're together. We cannot run this city divided into 9 districts. We have to all be on the same page. We have to all be trying to attract businesses, jobs, economic development to our city. We all have to work together to reduce the crime we have in our city. So I think that it's not going to be a segmented job. I think that it will involve the other 8 counselors 100%. I do think that there are special things that a counselor can do specifically for their district, such as using their PIC funds for different neighborhood infrastructure projects and making sure their discretionary funds are used appropriately in the neighborhoods. But other than that, it's really important that the counselor works with his other or her other eight co-workers and make sure that we are all focused and the mayor, that we are all focused together on one common goal instead of 9 separate goals.
I want to move to education real briefly. You spoke a minute ago about job training for students that are not going to be going on to continuing education. A lot of folks say that Birmingham cannot truly improve till the education system has improved. Do you agree with that? And how does it improve its city school system? And I say this because I know a lot of people that live in Birmingham, and they have children. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're so happy we have a child now, but we're going to have to move in 5 to 6 years because Birmingham city schools are bad." How do you make Birmingham city schools better? But also, how do you combat that sort of thinking?
Sure. I think that there is definitely going to be a stigma or stereotype that our city schools are not improving, no matter how much improvement has been made over the past couple of years. I think that's unfortunate. But I do think that job training that involves major industry, the private sector, is crucial in what we have to do for our kids. I know that in Huffman High School there are some job training classes, but I think that what we need to do is take that model and put it on steroids. I think that we need to follow through and actually get some private sector involvement with it, so that the kids will actually graduate with the training they need for a specific job in a specific industry, and I think that that's going to help the crime rate, as well, as I previously mentioned. In terms of having the school system, the perception of it, I think that that's something that's going to have to gradually change over time. I don't think that that's something that can happen overnight. But I will say this: as a Birmingham City Councilor, you have very little say in terms of what happens in the school system.
Right.
Obviously the school board and mostly the superintendent has the day-to-day say in what happens in the school system. And the only way to help affect change in the school system as a city councilor is to meet with the school board and the superintendent. I have been very disappointed to see that our city council has been focused solely on issues that relate to the very narrow definitions of what a city councilor does, and not take the time to meet with the school board, to meet with the superintendent, and be united. And I think that the mayor, the superintendent, the school board, and the city council, every single player involved needs to sit down together and have one common goal, decide on that goal, and all push for it, instead of each of the 4 different groups kind of sitting by themselves and doing having segmented goals and not coming together.
So Hunter, it sounds like you've got a lot of passion and a lot of drive for this. And I appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions. I'm going to get off in the weeds a little bit here. I'm going to ask you something that's a little bit off subject, maybe for your district, but something that does concern Birmingham. Blake and I last week discussed dome versus open air stadium for the BJCC expansion. Can you weigh in briefly on the dome versus the open air stadium, and where do you fall?
Well, to be honest, I did not hear your last podcast, so I don't know what was said about it. I will say this: I have not looked at any analysis or any study of what the benefits would be to either one. But I do think that we have to have facilities available to attract larger conventions and larger events in our city. I think that any successful city that you travel to in the United States obviously has some sort of stadium or facility that can hold large events and host large groups. And for us to move forward and to progress as a city, we're going to have to build something. I don't know if it's open air or a dome. And I think that, I wouldn't make my decision without looking at a study of which would be the most effective for what we need in Birmingham. But I do think that we have to have something that can host large numbers of people. And it's something that we're lacking right now. The closest thing we have, obviously, is the BJCC. But that goes in line also with economic growth. The more opportunity and the more things that come to Birmingham, the more opportunity that our citizens and our residents will have. So I do think that we need to form a private and public partnership to build a larger event space in Birmingham.
And along those same lines, where do you fall? There's been some talk lately of expanding the entertainment districts in Birmingham, or maybe even the creation of a pedestrian area on 20th Street. How do you feel about those? Have you looked at those at all or heard the talk?
I've definitely heard the talk. I think that expanding entertainment districts when you have all of the not only support from the local residents in that area, but also the support of the owners of the establishments, whether they be bars, clubs, restaurants, or whatnot. If you have their support and that's something that they want to do, I think by all means we should do it. I think that there are several different areas within the city that would be great entertainment districts. If the bar owners and the neighborhood association support it, then I think that we should expedite it and get it done. In terms of what's going on with the talk of turning 20th Street into a pedestrian mall, I really haven't looked at any studies about the feasibility of that, and I don't think that anybody else has looked at a study of the feasibility.
They just approved the funding for a feasibility study. But
they approved the study, but no one's seen any information. So, to be honest, I would be hesitant to comment on what I think about it without seeing what the study had, and also without knowing what those business owners on 20th thought of it. If like the entertainment district, if the business owners think it would be advantageous to them and their business, and the study showed that it could be advantageous to the city as a whole, then let's do it. If not, obviously let's not go down the wrong path on that.
So tell our listeners where they can find more information about your candidacy.
Sure. You can go to hunterwilliams2017.com, and on there you can find all my contact information, look at my Facebook page, Instagram page, and everything else related to my campaign. Anyone can feel free to reach out to me that has any questions about my platform, where I stand on issues, or if they just want to speak about some issue that they're having specifically within District 2. I welcome everybody to contact me. My phone number's on my website, my email's on my website, and I welcome any participation in that.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Red Mountain Express. Again, we'd like to thank Hunter for joining us today. Join us next week. We'll sit down with the folks over at Original Beham. You may know them by their trademark logo of a capital B. And we had a discussion about this. I don't know if it's a ham hock or a ham bone.
Let's ham bone.
Ham bone? Yeah. Ham bone. We'll call it a ham bone. We look forward to talking with them next week. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. And please just take a minute and rate us and review us on the iTunes page. For Matthew Joyner, I am Blake Westbrook. This has been the Red Mountain Express, and we'll see you next week.